today. So we're going to read this together. This is Matthew chapter 12. Jesus is traveling around. He's doing ministry. He's with his disciples. And then this happens. Then they is the audience, the group, the people that were all out there. Not the religious people, the people. Then they brought him a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute. And Jesus healed him. I read this thing like 5 times and I just scooted right past that. They brought him a demon-possessed man, one that the rest of the world looked at and they went, that guy's possessed. Like not just metaphorically, he's possessed, we can tell. And look, he's blind and he's also mute, and Jesus healed him. Now what's the evidence? What's the proof of that? How do we know that Jesus actually healed this demon-possessed blind and mute man? So that he could both talk and see. The kingdom of God intersected with the kingdom of darkness and it expelled it. It was gone. The response, the effect was immediate for all to see. And it says all the people were astonished. And they said, could this be the son of David? I mean, minds were blown going, what? Who is this guy? That was amazing. These are not the religious elite people. These are normal, average, everyday people that saw Jesus, and they saw Jesus intersect, right? Jesus, the embodiment of the kingdom of God, full of light, full of life. Jesus, when Jesus intersected the kingdom of darkness, darkness disappeared and they're blown away by it. We've never seen anything like this. Now here's the people that actually got upset in this whole situation. It wasn't the blind and deaf demon-possessed man, and it wasn't the people that were astonished. It was actually the religious leaders that had a problem with Jesus. Here's what, if we keep reading, it says, but when the Pharisees heard this, Pharisees would be the teachers of the law, the priests, the ones that are in charge, the ones that are in control, the ones that oversee the temple of God. When they heard this, they said, it's only Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this fellow drives out demons. What? Like, imagine you're there, imagine you're watching, you see this man get dragged out, and then you see Jesus come over, and the kingdom of darkness is expelled from him, and he can talk, and he's in his right mind, and he can hear, and he's full of joy, and he's full of life. And the religious leaders, the ones who would have known better than anyone else what the Son of God is going to look like, what the promised Messiah is going to look like, what he's going to do, and what he's going to say, they would know all of that. And Jesus, here's the picture of it, and they go, that's got to be spawn of Satan. You can laugh. That's funny. The religious leaders ascribed Jesus' ministry to Satan. Why in the world would they do that? I'm not even kidding. I probably sat on this text for like a week until I could finally figure out what was it inside of them that would cause them to see in such an incredible, miraculous healing and the casting out of a demon, to see this man restored back to his right mind. You think about the implications for his family and for his children and for his neighborhood, for his friends. You see, when he was brought back into his right mind, the kingdom of God intersected with the kingdom of Satan. Why in the world would the religious elite attribute that to Satan? And here's the conclusion I came to. I think they saw Jesus as a threat. I think when Jesus showed up and Jesus started doing the things that they used to do, but far more effectively, when Jesus would speak to large groups of people, but Jesus' groups were far bigger, when Jesus would cast out demons, he was far more effective than when they would cast out demons. When Jesus prayed for healing and for miracles, and God answered those with healing and miracles, but they didn't see the same thing, I think it created this giant insecurity in the people of God. Jesus was a threat to their way of life, to their power, to their authority, to the things that they were used to the way that they had set up their world. Jesus was a threat to every part of their life in which they drew significance or security or value or identity. Jesus threatened it. And in feeling threatened, they said, the only way to solve this is to divide myself against him. We're not on the same team. That's Satan. And all this work that he's doing, hey people, I just want you to see all this work that guy's doing, he's doing it in Satan. Pause. You ever feel like Jesus is a threat to you? I mean, do you ever feel like Jesus threatens something that you love, that you care about, that you value, that you hold deeply? I mean, that you love. It's kind of like, Jesus, I'll follow you. I'll give you everything, but like, please don't touch this. Please don't go after this. Please don't make me go here. Please don't make me talk to them. Please don't make me do. Is there anything in your own heart that there's some sort of a line, even if it's super faint, there's some sort of a line that you say, Jesus, please don't cross this line. Because when he does, the immediate response that we often feel, that I often feel, is threatened. That Jesus is threatening my way of life, my retirement, my family, my money, my. What do you feel like Jesus is a threat to in your life? You know, before we go too far, I want to talk about this from Satan's perspective, okay? Satan knows Jesus is a threat. Do you know that? It's all throughout the Bible. Satan knows. Satan and Jesus know each other. They've talked. Satan knows Jesus is a threat. In fact, how the Bible describes our world, this world that we live in, is that this is Satan's dominion right now. That he's allowed to roam and run free, and he's allowed to do, to a certain extent, whatever it is that God may allow him to do, right? God always has the final say, but Satan has been given dominion over this world because we're not robots. Because we're not a computer program. God created in us a will, a human will that we can actually decide, am I going to pursue God or am I going to pursue Satan? Am I going to pursue the kingdom of heaven or am I going to pursue the kingdom of this world? We have to have a choice. And if we have to have a choice, there's one or the other. So if we ever feel threatened by Jesus, it makes you wonder, which part of this worldly kingdom am I holding on to? Satan knows Jesus is a threat. Here's what I think. Satan, as you know, comes to steal and to kill and to destroy. And he does that through division. And I think if Satan knows that Jesus is a threat, the best thing he can do to destroy you is to convince you that Jesus is a threat to you too. That's just how he works. He's conniving, scheming, he's smart, he's tempting. His entire mode of operating in this world is, how do I get you to see Jesus as a threat so that you don't give yourself wholly to him, so that you allow division to take place in the deepest part of your heart? Because if you're divided on a heart level, it is endless what Satan can do through that. So here's the religious leaders, right? They're struggling. God, He's threatening my way of life. He's threatening my influence. He's threatening my income. He's threatening my power. He's threatening my identity and perception. Jesus is threatening everything. And it forces you to act and to say stuff that doesn't make sense, like this. Now, I'll be super honest with you today, okay? I know exactly what that's like. I know exactly what it's like to feel like Jesus is threatening a part of your life, or all of it. My dad's a pastor. I grew up in the local church. If you've been here at Frontline, you've heard me say that before. So I grew up in the local church. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a variety of different things I was interested in. Thought about being a doctor, thought about being a lawyer, maybe a helicopter pilot, law enforcement. I had a whole plethora of things. I was like, I'd be interested in doing this. Guess what was not on that list? There was no part of me looking at my dad going, I want to do that. Why, you might say? There goes weekends. There goes every Sunday. I have an obligation. What about perception? Man, there's the perception. You know, people look at you different. They treat you different. They talk to you different when you have the role of pastor. It gets deeper than that. God, what about retirement? What about income? What about where I'm going to live? What about standard of living? God, I don't want to do this. I remember the day I gave my life to the Lord, I said, okay, God, I surrender everything to you. And that was the same day, it was the same moment that God said, great, I'm calling you into ministry. And I went, huh? That's what it was. Total release, total surrender. And God goes, this is the direction that I'm leading you. Well, a couple years into ministry, this is a few years back, a couple years into ministry, I remember thinking, maybe God's just punishing me. Maybe he's calling me into this lane because he knew I didn't want to. Maybe there was something I did that he's undoing, or something I did that he's nailing me for, or something. Maybe God doesn't want me to be happy. He doesn't want me to be fulfilled. He doesn't want me to pursue my dreams or my life or my end game. Maybe he doesn't, and that's why he called me into this lane. I have no doubt in my mind that he did call me to ministry. But here's the thing that I started wondering, and I started questioning. Is Jesus a threat to me, though? Is all this stuff that I value and hold true to, is Jesus threatening that? So a couple of years into ministry, I had this wild idea. I was like, well, I was always interested in business. I was always interested in real estate. My mom was a realtor. So I started listening to a podcast, listened to a bunch of podcasts, right? Became an expert from my podcasts. And I went, I think I'm equipped. I'm going to go out, and here's what I did. I decided I was going to start my own business. I was going to buy a rental property because, especially years ago, that's what everybody did. If you want to secure your financial future, that's what you need to do. And so I remember I shared with a couple different people from here at our church, people that I respect, people that had mentored me, people that I held significant spiritual influence. I remember coming to them going, I think I'm going to take a bunch of money out of my retirement. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to put it over here. And one guy said, David, I'm going to be super straight with you. I don't think God's in this with you. Said it to my face. And I remember I felt it in my heart. He's right. And I said, well, you're the only guy that said that, so I think I'm going to go for it anyway. Not even kidding. I went for it anyway, started my own business, bought a house, leveraged a lot of our family's income. I took this giant risk, and about 9 months in, it was going great. I had turned it profitable. By all measures of success, it was working. And in my quiet time one day, here's what I felt like I heard God say. I wrote it down. I felt like God said, I'm not in this with you. I did not call you to this. I called you to ministry, and you need to be all in. Therefore, I'm out. And I remember there was this peace that I had that was gone. And it was almost as in sequence. Shortly thereafter, it was like a machine gun, rapid fire, problem. And what started coming in was fear, it was anxiety, it was guilt, it was shame. I started looking and started running numbers going, I just cost my family a fortune. If all of these are true, if this pans out, my prayers turned upside down. Begging God, please let me out, please let me out, please let me out. And it was this long process of, God, I'm trying to let it go. I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to get rid of it. I want to be obedient to you. And I walked around my house for months with a shell of a personality. I remember talking to my wife, Shannon, going, I'm so sorry I risked our whole family for this. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I let you down. I'm sorry I risked the boys. I'm sorry I risked our house. I'm sorry I risked everything. It was because I had allowed division in my heart to take place. And when I opened up the door, I opened up the window, or I opened up the avenue for Satan to come in just a little bit, to go, maybe Jesus isn't who he says he is. As soon as I opened it up, it was amazing how it was such a pendulum swing from like, man, I feel like God's just with me and he's blessing me in the season because I'm being obedient, to I allowed disobedience to turn my heart and my affections towards something else, and it was like God was gone. That's what it felt like. Here's a question, okay, just for all of you. What's God called you to? What's God called you to right now? You know what a great answer is? My family. He's called me to my spouse. He's called me to my kids. Maybe he's called you to your career. Maybe you are called to real estate. Maybe you are called to be a doctor. Maybe you are called to be a lawyer or a helicopter pilot or a teacher. Maybe you are called to do those things. Here's the question that I have for you. Are you being obedient to the calling that God has placed on your life? Is God with you in it, or have you opened the door and cracked it open of disobedience? To allow the threat of Jesus to take root, to start questioning, is he who he really says he actually is? Jesus was such a polarizing figure, and the reason he was so polarizing is because of this. He always said, you're either all in or you're not in. But it can't be both. You can't have a foot in both worlds. Hey, thanks for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it, hope it made an impact on your life somehow. And if it did, don't forget to like or subscribe or share it on social media with your friends as well. We always love seeing you, and remember that you can join us live every single Sunday. So hope to see you there.